represents the 4th AngularJS meetup. And as we announced the meetup, it was quite amazing because during the first 30 minutes the limit was reached, the amount of max attendees. And right now, yeah, the limit is quite full, and on the waiting list there is the same amount of people. So that's quite nice. And as you can see here, there's the growth of the AngularJS meetup user group. It's quite nice. So yeah, welcome everybody, and thank you for being here tonight.
Just for your interest, how few is here from the Java library user group and who of the Angular? So please raise your hand for the Angular, for the Angular user group first. Yeah. Okay, and the rest, hands up.
Java.
Seems like a mixed one. So really nice to have both groups together.
Question? You have a question?
No.
Okay. So, yeah, that's the... Bitte?
Java-Group angemeldet haben, weil sie sich bei der Lightweight User Group anmelden wollten oder weil sie eigentlich nur zur Angular wollten.
Das können wir noch kurz vor der Pause machen. Yeah, here you can see the agenda for today's evening, which is full with 3 lightning talks and 1 live coding example about ECMAScript 6 today in the context of Angular. And first, David and me will start with just a story about AngularJS modularization, followed by a practical experience of assembling a gulp file, which is owned by Slatko, which is in one of the last rows, and followed by automated headless end-to-end testing by Benjamin. So let's start.
So maybe 1 or 2 words about myself, because for me it's really interesting to have all kinds of programming environment, people sitting together and talking to each other. So it's thanks again for the for this great chance to be here and for the pizza and the drinks. So thanks a lot for coming.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Applause.
And probably it's the same for you. At my company, we are Java guys, especially, and also having the migration towards more Angular to implement for web applications. So I assume that many people of you are having maybe the same experience already, or thinking about, or are interested in this kind of migration. So I think this evening about the AngularJS would be very helpful and interesting for you. Okay. About this talk, we had the idea to,
just a few words about it. Usually we wanted to tell you and talk about modularization in the context of AngularJS. We prepared the slides, and after a while we had about 150 slides. So don't worry, we reduced it and we tried to talk about it within the next 15 to 20 minutes and broke it down to just take a detailed look at some parts of it. And maybe we will do, if you're interested, a follow-up meetup where we can go in detail in this interesting and scaling topic.
So it's not kind of a usual presentation. So feel free to be part of this discussion. We are telling maybe some stupid things. Maybe you realize them. They are on purpose stupid. What we say. Okay. Feel free to ask or criticize us and take part of this discussion. Okay. Or in the break.
Okay, let's start with the question, how do you handle cross-file dependency management in my AngularJS application? So, how you load the different source files?
So Johannes and me sit together and I asked for this question. and then we compare. And this talk we put into the slides.
Yeah, the first question was just when you started with AngularJS app, you don't need to set up the whole environment or just start with small steps, with baby steps. So the first question is you could use script tags, and as everybody know it, just reference to the JavaScript files in your HTML files. So you have an overview about the loading order, what is loaded, and when what execution will happen.
So this was also in our project the situation. Like many years ago when we implemented in jQuery and so on, we did it this way. With Angular we started at first with this approach and then we switched, we moved.
Yeah, then there was this question, 5 scripts, yeah, they are easily to maintain, but how will you handle a different structure when you have, for example, I don't know, 100 to 200, 300 different source files in your AngularJS app? Will you care about them manually? No. There are other solutions for that. So, the first thinking was about, hey, using AMD, because it handles the dependency loading. For example, here you define low-angular and my components as dependency, and AMD, in that case require.js for example, will handle about just loading the source file and executes this callback function after all files, after all dependencies are loaded.
So who of you is already using Angular in projects, at home or in production? Great. And raise your hands again if it's with AMD. So who's using AMD with Angular? Wow. it's my point. What about CommonJS? Anyone using CommonJS? Great. Any other loader? So who is using this kind of thing? Okay. And the rest? Give me some alternatives.
We have a task which collects all the JavaScript files and minifies them and puts them into one file.
So like a concat task. Who is using this kind of approach? It's the same that I'm used to. Okay.
I'm excited about these answers. I expected more guys who are using AAD or something like that or CommonJS.
So if you ask this question in a typical JavaScript user group, as we did before, it was much more empty. So really, really, really great to have this kind of mixture.
So AMD is one option. But what's that? Yeah. Do you know the anti-pattern don't repeat yourself, or the pattern don't repeat yourself? So in that context, when you use AMD, so in that case you load my components as an AMD dependency and you load it, or you define it again as Angular module dependency. So is it really needed?
Who of you doesn't know about AMD if we went too fast? Okay, great.
Everyone knows about it. Yeah, don't repeat yourself. So this is not needed. On the other hand, yeah, we have two different dependency management contexts. The first one, in that case, AMD would more be the A, like load the files as they are defined as dependency. And yeah, the other part is in the AngularJS context. Define your module dependency, which doesn't mean that the file has to be loaded within Angular. Yeah, you have to care about it outside Angular.
And there were 3 questions I asked Johannes. So compared to the Concat version and the AMD version Johannes is using, or preferring. Yeah. So
not anymore.
We were talking about a problem. So why to use AMD? The first one was this one, this kind of code. There was also talk at Europe and GConf about require.js and AMD. So the idea is that you have an independent data structure and model, and it's independent of Angular. So it needs to be outside of the Angular, like calling a new person object and setting it to some global data layer. Okay? So this is one idea. And if you do so, you would need probably AMD. Otherwise, you get conflicts when which data object will get called and combined. Yeah? The second one.
Yeah, the second one is about the dependencies. You defined this file as an AMD dependency, and this part is getting executed after the files are loaded, and yeah, just initially when this function is called, these two parts. But you can control when this part is fired. The controller is fired, yeah, when it's used within the Angular app, when you define it as an attribute or in the controller. So it don't feel that well like, okay, we load two files, have two dependency definitions. Yeah, it doesn't look that good.
So in the situation you don't have an Angular application at all, but also some mixture like Backbone combined with Angular, for example. So who of you has an application where there's not only Angular but also other libraries? So it's
Like
some people.
Like jQuery, Lodash, HiCharts, vendor components.
Okay. So without AMD you could say, yeah, it's an Angular app. So in every file I have Angular dependency. I load it in the global namespace and I just access it. So I don't need to have it by AMD injected because I anyway use it everywhere. So where's the benefit? The last one is here. If an Angular module is registered like this, it needs the my service to be registered beforehand, right? Otherwise, with this code you would get an exception because the my service Angular module is not registered yet. Anyone encounter this kind of problems without AMD using? Okay, nobody. So let's continue.
Yeah, a possible solution is in that case, yeah, just move your component, your model component, directly into the controller. So you can be sure that the controller, the model in this controller, is definitely touched when the controller is getting executed. So it's getting more, you get more control about your AngularJS code. So the important thing here is move everything inside your Angular controller services or whatever, but not outside your Angular module definition or other definition, because you can't be sure when what is getting executed.
So this part is handled by AMD, the ordering, and within a controller service provider and so on, it's Angular's dependency injection, handling the ordering. Okay?
Okay, we had a topic which was quite interesting, like about the different thinkings. It was about global libraries. In that case, or in an AngularJS application, why should I define Angular in the AMD context in each file? Because yeah, it's an AngularJS application and it should be available globally. So why not saving this time of writing down my dependencies and make it more meaningful by defining Angular as a global dependency? Here, for example, you see Angular is loaded, Lodash as a second global component can be loaded, and then my AngularJS app is loaded.
And then Johannes tells me, yeah, but what about Lodash? I mean, this is not used in any file, so maybe I want to explicitly say in this Angular context I'm using Lodash and it must be available. So how does there could be a solution for this?
Yeah, the other solution would be to define Lodash as an Angular module, wrap Lodash in a service, and you can inject it in each service controller or whatever, and you see the dependency. On the other hand, yeah, why not making it available globally, which would be easier?